There's a moment in life when you start noticing something quietly unsettling. People don't respond to you the way they respond to everyone else. They become careful with their words. They watch themselves around you. Some even seem nervous, distant, or unexpectedly polite. And you're left wondering why. You're not harsh. You're not unkind. You're not trying to dominate anyone. Yet somehow, your presence shifts the air in the room. And the truth is, it isn't because you're doing anything wrong. It's because your calm, your clarity, your silence, and your inner discipline reveal things in others they're not ready to face. Most people are not intimidated by you. They're intimidated by what being around you makes them feel about themselves. Stoic philosophy reminds us that real strength doesn't announce itself. It's quiet, it's steady, it's sensed long before it's spoken. Today, we'll uncover 8 subtle signs that your presence carries more power than you realize. Sign 1. The self-conscious shift. People correct themselves around you. One of the earliest signs that you intimidate people without realizing it is how quickly they adjust themselves the moment you enter a space. It happens in subtle, almost invisible ways. Yet, once you start noticing it, you can't unsee it anymore. Someone who was relaxed suddenly straightens their posture. A person who is speaking confidently begins to stumble over their words. A group that was laughing loudly becomes noticeably quieter when you walk by. It's not because you're unkind. It's not because you're imposing. It's because your presence makes people more aware of themselves than they expected to be. Most people move through life on autopilot. They speak without thinking, react without intention, and operate from habit rather than clarity. But when someone with grounded energy enters the room, someone who is calm, observant, and internally anchored, it disrupts that autopilot. Suddenly, people feel seen, even if you haven't said a word. This shift happens because your presence creates contrast. Your quiet confidence highlights their uncertainty. Your self-control highlights their impulsiveness. Your composure highlights their scattered emotions. And whether they realize it or not, they begin adjusting themselves in response to you. Stoic philosophy teaches that a person who is centered within themselves naturally becomes a mirror to others. When people stand near someone who has taken responsibility for their inner world, they become acutely aware of how little responsibility they've taken for theirs. They sense the difference, even if they can't articulate it. This doesn't make you threatening. It makes you rare. The truth is, people don't correct themselves because they fear your judgment. They correct themselves because they fear confronting the parts of themselves they've ignored. Your presence invites them, often unwillingly, into self-awareness. And self-awareness can be uncomfortable. You may think you're just standing there, listening, observing, or minding your own business. But your grounded stillness, your thoughtful pauses, your intentional way of carrying yourself, these things send signals. Not aggressive signals, not superior signals, simply signals of someone who lives with a degree of inner order. People feel that, they react to that, and sometimes they reshape themselves. Not to impress you, but to avoid feeling exposed around you. This is the quiet impact of inner strength. You don't need to demand respect. Your presence quietly commands it. Sign 2, the silent authority. People avoid challenging you directly. Another subtle sign that you intimidate people without meaning to is how rarely they challenge you head-on. It's not that they agree with everything you say, it's that they hesitate to confront you, debate you, or question you directly. They take the long way around, soften their opinions, or wait to see where you stand before they reveal what they really think. You'll notice it in meetings, conversations, even in small group settings. Someone starts to disagree with an idea until they see your expression. Suddenly, their tone changes. Well, maybe that could work. I see your point, actually. Or they defer, what do you think we should do? People who feel intimidated don't push back. They retreat to safety. But this reaction has little to do with aggression on your part. It has everything to do with the way you carry yourself. You're composed when others react. You're thoughtful when others rush. You speak with intention, not impulse. And that level of self-control often makes people feel like they are stepping into a conversation unprepared. Most conflict is emotional, not logical. People raise their voices when they're unsure. They argue with force when they lack clarity. But when they stand before someone steady, collected, and deeply grounded, their emotional tactics simply don't work. They sense that they cannot derail you or rattle you, so they step back instead of stepping forward. Stoic philosophy teaches that true strength is calm strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a person who is in command of themselves cannot be provoked by others. And when you cannot be provoked, others instinctively treat you with caution, even respect. You may not realize the effect you have, because to you, staying calm is natural. You're not trying to win anything. You're not trying to overpower anyone. You simply don't react with unnecessary emotion. But to people who rely on emotional intensity to assert themselves, your steadiness feels like a wall they can't climb. So they avoid conflict, they avoid debate, they avoid anything that risks exposing their uncertainty next to your clarity. Some will speak indirectly through others, some will wait until you leave to voice their real thoughts. Some will change their opinions entirely to match yours, not because they fully agree, but because they feel safer aligning with your certainty than confronting it. This is not domination. This is presence. And when your presence alone is enough to quiet a room or soften an argument, it's a sign that your inner discipline has become a quiet form of authority, one that needs no force, only steadiness. Sign 3. The extra effort effect. People prepare more when you're involved. A subtle but revealing sign that you intimidate people without realizing it is how they suddenly put in more effort when something involves you. They become more careful, more polished, more deliberate, not because you demanded excellence, but because your presence naturally raises the bar. You've probably noticed it. Someone writes you an email, then rewrites it twice. A coworker rehearses a presentation more thoroughly when they know you'll be in the room. A friend explains a decision to you with unusual precision, as if they're trying to justify it before you even ask. This isn't flattery. This isn't admiration. This is pressure. Internal pressure they place on themselves. What they're really thinking is, I don't want to look unprepared in front of this person. I want to sound like I know what I'm doing. I hope I don't disappoint them. But notice something important. You never said they had to impress you. You never criticized them. You never asked for perfection. Your standards, your discipline, your clarity, these things radiate quietly. And people can feel the difference between someone who lives intentionally and someone who drifts. When they sense that difference, they instinctively adjust upward around you. This is the contrast effect. Your grounded way of moving through the world highlights where others are cutting corners in theirs. They're not intimidated by who you are. They're intimidated by who they fear they aren't when standing beside you. Stoic philosophy explains this beautifully. A person who lives by virtue naturally exposes without trying the places where others avoid responsibility. Your consistency emphasizes their inconsistency. Your preparedness highlights their shortcuts. Your integrity reveals their compromises. And most people aren't used to being around someone who operates from that kind of inner order. So they prepare more. They measure their words. They choose their actions carefully. Not because you expect it, but because being around someone with high personal standards forces them, sometimes uncomfortably, to look at their own. What's even more interesting is how they behave afterward. Instead of relaxing, many will stay alert, as if still under evaluation. They may ask, was that okay? Or, did that make sense? They don't want your approval. They want relief from the pressure they put on themselves. Your presence becomes a quiet catalyst for higher effort. Not through force, not through authority, but through the natural gravity of someone who takes themselves seriously. This is intimidation in its softest form, and its most honest one. Sign 4, the echo of your silence. People second-guess themselves. One of the clearest signs you intimidate people without ever intending to is what happens when you go quiet. Not upset, not withdrawn, just quiet. Your silence doesn't simply fill the room, it changes it. And the people around you feel that shift more intensely than you might ever realize. You've probably seen this play out. You pause for a moment before responding, and suddenly someone asks, "Did I say something wrong?" You take a breath to think, and they start apologizing for things you weren't even bothered by. You listen intently, and they mistake it for judgment instead of attention. Silence is neutral, but your silence, it carries weight. Most people are uncomfortable with quiet because they depend on noise, verbal cues, emotional feedback, constant reassurance, to feel safe. When those cues disappear, they begin to question themselves. They start replaying conversations in their head. They assume they've crossed a boundary or made you upset, even when your expression hasn't changed. Why? Because people project their insecurities into the space your silence creates. They're not reading you. They're reading their own fears. Stoic philosophy explains this through a simple idea. When a person with inner calm enters a situation, they reveal the turbulence inside others. Your silence is not empty. It is ordered. It is deliberate. It is grounded. And standing next to someone who can sit comfortably in that kind of internal order forces others to confront the disorder inside themselves. Your silence makes them think. Your presence makes them reflect. Your calm makes them wonder what you see that they don't. People who depend on external validation, tone shifts, quick replies, emotional responses, feel particularly threatened by this. Silence denies them control. It denies them the ability to shape your perception. And so they fill the quiet with assumptions, explanations, or unnecessary apologies. But here's the irony. You're not judging them. You're not analyzing them. You're not waiting for the perfect moment to criticize. You're just thinking, just processing, just being present. You're doing what a grounded person does, responding with intention instead of impulse. Yet your calm, intentional silence exposes how reactive they are. And that contrast creates discomfort, not because you are intimidating, but because being around someone stable highlights how unstable they feel. This is why people second-guess themselves around you. Not because of what you say, but because of what you don't say. Not because of how you judge them, but because of how they judge themselves in your presence. Your silence is not a threat, it's a mirror. And not everyone is ready to see their reflection. Sign 5. The calm contrast. Your composure exposes their lack of control. Another powerful sign that you intimidate people without trying lies in how they react to your calmness, especially in moments when most people would crumble. You've probably noticed that when things get chaotic, overwhelming, or emotionally intense, you don't match the energy of the room. You don't panic with the crowd. You don't raise your voice just because others do. You stay steady, almost unnervingly so. And that steadiness doesn't always comfort people. Sometimes it unsettles them. Imagine a heated meeting. Someone is frustrated, speaking too quickly, losing coherence. Everyone else is absorbing the tension, except you. You're listening, you're thinking, and you're waiting for the right moment to speak. That contrast makes people hyper-aware of their own loss of control. Your calmness silently exposes just how emotionally reactive they are. This doesn't mean you think you're better than them. It doesn't mean you're being cold. It simply means you don't lose yourself to situations that demand clarity, not chaos. But here's where the intimidation comes in. Most people equate loudness with strength. Most people equate speed with certainty. Most people equate emotional expression with passion. So when they encounter someone who is strong without being loud, certain without being rushed, and grounded without being dramatic, they don't know how to read you. And what people can't read, they often fear. Stoic philosophy teaches that the person who can stay calm in difficulty has already won half the battle. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if you remain unmoved by external turmoil, the world loses its power to dictate your emotional state. People feel that truth when they're around you. They feel it in how you respond instead of react. They feel it in the way you look for solutions instead of someone to blame. Your calm becomes a mirror for their chaos. Your composure becomes a reminder of their impulsiveness. Your clarity becomes an uncomfortable contrast to their confusion. And the more they sense this difference, the more they behave differently around you. Some soften their tone. Some watch their words more carefully. Some avoid showing strong emotions because they feel exposed next to someone who handles pressure so gracefully. They don't fear your judgment. They fear their own lack of self-mastery. This is the paradox of quiet strength. You don't intimidate people by force. You intimidate them by control. Control of your mind, your reactions, your presence. And those who cannot control themselves often feel overwhelmed in the presence of someone who can. Sign 6. The unspoken influence. People adjust their decisions based on you. One of the most telling signs you intimidate people without realizing it is how often they modify their choices after seeing your reaction, or even before you react at all. They watch your face, your posture, your silence, your smallest shift of attention. And whether they admit it or not, these cues influence what they do next. You've seen this before. Someone proposes an idea, but the moment you raise an eyebrow, not in disapproval, just in thought, they immediately backtrack. Someone makes a decision confidently, but after noticing your quiet pause, they suddenly reconsider. Someone shares a plan, then quickly adds, "But I'm open to changing it. What do you think?" They're not looking for approval. They're looking for alignment, because alignment with you feels safer than risking being wrong next to you. This influence isn't intentional. You're not trying to control anyone. You're not demanding conformity. You're simply anchored. And people gravitate toward anchors when their own direction feels uncertain. What intimidates them is not authority, it's certainty. Your certainty. Most people base their decisions on emotion, impulse, social cues, or convenience. They expect others to do the same. But when they encounter someone who chooses based on principles, clarity, or inner conviction, they instinctively recalibrate their choices. They want their decisions to hold up under the weight of your quiet scrutiny, even if you're not scrutinizing anything at all. Stoic philosophy teaches that a person who knows their values moves through life with a different kind of gravity. You don't need to persuade people, they shift around you automatically. You don't need to argue, they adjust themselves voluntarily. Your groundedness creates a pressure point inside them. Is my choice thoughtful or careless? Is this path aligned or reactive? Does this hold up or is it weak? Your presence becomes a silent measuring stick, and without realizing it, they measure themselves against it. Some people will welcome this influence, seeing it as guidance. They admire your steadiness and let it elevate them. But others, especially those insecure in their own judgment, may feel exposed. They fear making a decision you would quietly disagree with, not because you would shame them, but because your silent standards make them question their own. And that's the real core of this dynamic. People don't fear disappointing you. They fear disappointing the version of themselves they want to be when they're around you. Your influence is unspoken, your authority is unforced, and your power, whether you see it or not, shapes the room long before you say a single word. Sign 7. The misread expression. Your neutral face feels like judgment. Another subtle sign you intimidate people without realizing it is how often your neutral expression is misunderstood. You're not irritated, you're not disappointed, you're not silently criticizing anyone. Yet somehow, people interpret your natural, relaxed face as if you're evaluating them. You've heard this before. Are you upset? Did I say something wrong? You look serious. Is everything okay? Or that classic one, you're hard to read. The truth is, you're not hard to read. You're just not dramatic. You don't force smiles to make others comfortable. You don't exaggerate expressions to reassure anyone. You don't perform emotions for approval. You simply exist in a calm, grounded baseline. But for many people, especially those who rely heavily on emotional cues, that baseline feels unfamiliar, even threatening. When someone's self-worth depends on being liked, validated, or immediately understood, your composure becomes an unsettling mirror. They can't tell what you're thinking, so they assume the worst. This is projection at its purest form. They're not reacting to your expression. They're reacting to their insecurity. They're not afraid you're judging them. They're afraid you could, and they wouldn't know it. Here's the deeper layer. Most people adjust their face to put others at ease. They soften their features, smile reflexively, widen their eyes, nod excessively. Not out of kindness, but out of habit rooted in people-pleasing or fear of rejection. So when they encounter someone who doesn't do that, someone who isn't signaling, "Don't worry, I approve," it sends their mind into overdrive. Your neutrality becomes a blank canvas, and they paint onto it their anxieties, doubts, and unresolved self-criticism. Stoic philosophy explains that a person who governs their inner state does not need external validation, and that absence of need creates a calm that others mistake for indifference. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your thoughts are quiet, steady, focused. Your face reflects that stillness. People who lack that inner stillness feel exposed standing next to it. Your neutrality magnifies their emotional noise. Your calmness highlights their reactivity. Your stillness reveals how much they depend on constant reassurance. The irony is, you're not judging anyone. If anything, you're simply thinking or resting. But to those unaccustomed to self-governed presence, your face feels like a silent evaluation. They're not intimidated by your expression. They're intimidated by what they imagine behind it. And the more centered you become, the more others mistake your inner peace for quiet judgment. Not because of who you are, but because of who they fear they are in your presence. Sign 8. The disarming. Honesty, your truthfulness, strips away their defenses. Perhaps the most powerful sign that you intimidate people without realizing it is how they react to your honesty. Not harsh honesty, not confrontational honesty. Just simple, direct, clear truth delivered without theatrics or sugarcoating. Your honesty isn't loud, but it's undeniably strong, and strength, when expressed with calm precision, often disarms people more than shouting ever could. Think about the way you speak. You don't add unnecessary fluff. You don't hide behind vague phrases. You don't manipulate emotions to soften reality. You say what is true, what is needed, and nothing more. To you, this feels natural. To others, it feels like standing under bright light with nowhere to hide. Many people rely on social smokescreens, exaggeration, polite misdirection, half-truths, strategic omissions to navigate conversation. They aren't necessarily deceitful. They're simply accustomed to bending the truth to maintain comfort, image, or approval. When someone like you enters the room, someone who speaks plainly and listens carefully, these layers start to fall apart. Your clarity forces them to confront their own ambiguity. Your sincerity forces them to notice where they're performative. Your groundedness forces them to see where they're avoidant. And that confrontation, silent, unintentional, unspoken, is intimidating. You might say, "I don't think that's the best idea," in a calm, neutral tone. To you, it's just a thoughtful opinion. To them, it feels like a spotlight shining on their uncertainty. You might answer a question honestly instead of telling them what they want to hear. To you, it's respect. To them, it's exposure. You might refuse to pretend something is fine when it isn't. To you, it's integrity. To them, it's pressure to stop lying to themselves. Stoic philosophy teaches that honesty, when rooted in virtue and not ego, is a moral duty. But most people aren't living by virtue. They're living by comfort. They choose the easy truth, the pleasant truth, the socially acceptable truth, the truth that asks nothing of them. When they encounter someone who chooses the real truth, calmly, unapologetically, they feel stripped of the illusions they cling to. Your honesty disarms them because it removes their excuses. It disarms them because it cuts through their stories. It disarms them because it reveals what they would rather avoid. And people often confuse feeling exposed with feeling intimidated. But the true intimidation isn't you. It's the truth reflected back at them. Some will appreciate it. They'll grow because of it. They'll trust you more deeply. Your honesty becomes a foundation for respect. But others, especially those who avoid accountability, will shrink, get defensive, or distance themselves. Not because you did something wrong, but because your authenticity highlights their inconsistency. This is the paradox of quiet truth. The more honest you become, the more people who fear honesty will feel overwhelmed by your presence. You don't raise your voice. You don't force your perspective. You don't try to break anyone's defenses. Your truth simply slips past the walls they built for everyone else. And that, without you intending it, is profoundly intimidating. As we close this journey, remember this. Intimidation isn't always a product of aggression or dominance. Sometimes it's simply the shadow cast by inner strength. Throughout this video, we explored 8 signs: your silence, your honesty, your composure, your standards, your presence, that reveal how powerful you appear to others, even when you don't intend to. If you recognize yourself in these signs, don't see them as flaws. See them as invitations. Invitations to understand your impact, invitations to refine your presence with intention, invitations to walk through the world with awareness, not apology. Your task moving forward is simple. Practice conscious presence. Notice how people shift around you. Notice how calmness changes conversations. Notice how honesty clears away pretense. And instead of shrinking your strength to make others comfortable, learn to carry it with balance, compassion, and clarity. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Your support, your attention, and your willingness to grow mean more than you know. If this video gave you insight or comfort, please like, share, and subscribe for more Stoic wisdom. Until the next video, stay steady, stay grounded, and stay true to who you are.